And welcome back to the channel, guys. Tool reviews of tools I use. Today I'm going to be taking you through my Stanley Fatmax toolbox that I used for renovation, building work, demolition and all manner of projects. It's a nice, strong constructed toolbox, really sturdy, good sturdy clips on it. I've had this for absolutely years and it served me really well. You can stand on it, you can sit on it, you can do anything. It's just really just built strong for proper work. It's got a good seal around the top of it, so it's weatherproof. Perfect if you have to work outside. I've modified it a little bit, so I've got a set of gloves that I've just bungeed onto the inside framework of it. Just drilled a couple of holes in there. They're just good quality mechanics gloves. I've got a Stanley knife just on the top, Stanley Titan. If you're interested in this knife, then just check out my reviews. I go over a whole load of heavy duty utility knives. This is my favourite. Keep a nice ratcheting screwdriver. Keep a tape measure. Usually just keep a 5 meter tape measure in here. I don't need to carry something as big as this, but it's just made its way in from a job that I was doing recently. But a good quality tape measure, can't go wrong. Keep a Barco adjustable spanner. I'm not going to go keeping a whole set of spanners in a box like this. I just want something like this that I can use on a multitude of tasks. I keep a nice set of pliers. This is a CK combination pliers, 200mm version. Really nice, you get lots of leverage with these things. Use them for a whole host of jobs. Really good, strong gripping teeth. If you want the quality of Nipex, but you don't want to pay the Nipex prices, I really recommend these CK classic pliers. I've got a whole bunch of them, they're just brilliant. Nice thick handles, really good. Keep one of these. I wouldn't be without this now. This is absolutely brilliant. It's just an angle adapter for a drill or an impact driver. It can just get you into tight spaces that your drill just wouldn't otherwise fit. Absolutely brilliant. Carry a whole variety of marking tools. So I've got pencils, I've got pens, I've got Sharpie markers. So I've got a chalk pen. Good for writing on sort of dirty surfaces. Carry a carpenter's pencil. Carry a Sharpie marker. And one of these marksman marking tools. And I'll show you how this one works just before I go on to the pencil. So if you have a look just here, you just press it in there and it just fires out a little green dot. And you could imagine I could fire that through a piece of 2x4 that I've drilled and actually mark the wall behind it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's such a labour saving device. And especially if you're only working with your two hands, just this is absolutely brilliant. I don't know how I've managed without that. It's great. Going on to the halter force. This is basically just a mechanical pencil. This is again is another labour saving device. You're not having to sharpen up these little pencils like this, the big carpenter's pencils. It's got its own internal sharpener there. You just turn it round, drops the lead out into a bin. You can clip it to your trousers. When you're done with the pencil, you can just drop it in there. It fits in nice and easy. Really good. I'm going to do a little comparison when I get a few more of these types of pencils and see which one fares the best. But I really like this Halterfor's model, and I keep a nice set of leads there. But these go a really long way. Little roll of duct tape. This is just an Altoids tin that I took an angle grinder to and turned it into a little bit like a money box. And when I'm done with utility knife blades out of, say, this, I can just drop them in here and I know that they're safe and out of the way. If I'm working around someone's house, I know the kids aren't going to get hold of the blades. I know that I'm not going to put my hand in my toolbox and cut myself. It's just really good to have something like this in a toolbox, and this works really well. When it fills up, I just undo the tape and dispose of them. It's great, reusable. So I carry a tin with just various blades and things for the same reason I've got that one. It just keeps the blades out of the way so that I'm just not cutting myself on them. We've got all sorts of different ones. I've just got the standard ones, I've got hook blades, I've got snap-off blades, pretty much all the ones I need. Got a silicone profile tool, pretty useful. This one's a bit grubby now, but keep a load of bits. So I keep impact bits and some standard bits in here. Mostly posi drive and Phillips is all I need in here. And yeah, just a good selection from Dewalt and Milwaukee. Keep a little bit of hearing protection. Stuck some plugs in here today. And I also keep, on the safety front, I keep a set of specs to hand, and along with a whole load of earplugs in there. If you keep stuff like this available in your toolbox, it means you don't have to walk to the van, you don't have to go to the workshop or anything. You're just much more likely to put them on if they're just within easy reach. So I always keep these in my box, rattling around. Keep a load more bits in here. These are Dewalt ones. If I can get them open. There you go. Just a nice little selection. These little angle screwdrivers are really useful to have in a toolbox. They've got me out of trouble so many times. This is what I used to use a lot of before I had this angle bit. But they're still worth their place in a toolbox. Just you got a Phillips on one side and a slotted on the other. Just ideal. Get you out of trouble a lot. Keep a load of punches for all sorts of things. Marking holes, marking where you're going to drill, just setting the drill in. Really useful, hiding nails in wood. Yeah, you're always going to need some punches. This tool's called a 4-in-1. It's basically a file with 4 different profiles on it. So you've got your flat file there, your curved file, curved rasp, and then a flat rasp. Really cheap, really compact. I don't need to do a whole lot of metal filing or anything like that, but to be able just to knock off burrs and things, this is a really useful tool to have. I keep a little bit of tape on it just because it can get lost in the bottom of the box sometimes. So a little bit of bright tape makes it easier. Keep a little ruler, a little steel rule. If sometimes I want to make really accurate cuts, really accurate marking, then I find this can sometimes be a little bit better than a tape measure. So I keep that in there. It takes no space at all. Just a paint can opener. Get these free in builders merchants and decorating centres. Keep a small pry bar. This pry bar is really good for trim. It's made by Richard. But you don't have to spend too much money on one of these. If you just go on eBay and search for something called a beehive tool, I think beekeepers use this exact tool to pry open the top lids, and then they scrape the honey out with this side here. And bought cheap from China, you can pick them up for about £3 instead of the 10 or 11 that I probably paid for this. So great tool though, super useful. Scraper on one side, pry bar on the other, little nail puller, can't go wrong. Few more impact bits. It's a pencil sharpener. That's for the carpenter's pencil. It just sharpens it a little bit better and a little bit more accurately than using a Stanley blade. I just find this really good. Just an old screw. Pencil. This 10 peg. So 10 pegs, the reason this is in here is for one reason only. When I'm opening a tube of grip fill, which is a little bit like that, I can go in and I can pop, there's a little cellophane wrapper just on the inside, and I can just pop through there, and I don't have to go sticking a screwdriver and ruining a screwdriver to go and break open a grip fill. So I keep this in here for this. I use it all the time. once it dries a little bit, just carve it off and it's nice and clean. Takes no space, but really useful. Keep a chuck key. A lot of what I carry in toolboxes is often because I've been without in the past and regretted it. And if you lose a chuck key, you really are stuck if that's the drill that you're using that day. So I keep a spare chuck key in here. I've got a little selection of rule plugs. Keep these rule plugs just to save me a trip to the van sometimes. Good to have. Getting into utility boxes, electrical boxes. Keep some bit holders. I think this one's by Barco and this is just a cheapo one. But yeah, it just gives me a few little options in drills. There's another one there. Keep a little bit of adhesive. That's just come out with something. I'm not sure what. That was a little set of gloves that just came with a expanding foam or something. It was never going to be a sterile tool review here. It's just this is my used toolbox, so anything that's in there is in there along with the fluff. I've got some little screw caps in there. They're just left over, not for any reason. And I've got some chalk. Chalk's really useful for marking stuff outside or inside even. And also you can, if you put a little nick in someone's skirting board or something white, then you can actually just stick a little bit of chalk in it and you can make it good. It's an old carpet fitter trick, that one. This is a little screw cap for a silicone sealant again. A lot of the time these things dry out. You might have to replace the nozzle sometimes, but you can actually save yourself from wasting lots of materials. But if you've just got the caps to hand, so keep those there. And I sometimes keep some of these nozzles in here as well, just to save waste. A little countersink bit, use that a lot. I've got a couple of radiator keys. And I've got a plasterboard bit here. So if you're screwing plasterboard on, this just allows you to screw to the right depth and you don't over drill for the most part anyway. Really useful to have. That's everything in there. So onto the main section. Got a nice Estwing hammer. These are my favourite ones. Absolutely love this hammer with the blue grip. You might see the leather handled one in my videos, but I much prefer this in normal use. It's really good hammer. It's 20 ounce straight claw rip claw hammer. Yeah, brilliant. Keep a set of these clamps in here. I don't like having them in here though. They take up a lot of space. They get in the way of all my tools. But every time I use this toolbox, I've often got a workbench that I'm working on, or they're just useful for holding down wood and so on. So the amount of times that I've taken these out and I've ended up putting them back in again, just figured they might as well live in here. So they stay in there. They're often the first things to come out. Stanley foobar, great tool for demolition. Having this along with a nice heavy hammer, you've got some really good options for demolition. But I like to use this if I'm swinging it and trying to break things down. I tend to try and use this tool rather than a nice carpenter's hammer. I tend to do a lot of smashing, ripping, prying using this. It's a really good demolition tool. I haven't broken it yet anyway. Check out my review on these. It's only a quick review, but I really do rate these. This is the Stanley Wonder Bar these are marketed as, and they're great. As far as flat bars go, these are the best that I've come across. A lot of them seem to be almost spring tempered, so that when you go to pry something, it's flexing on you, and you don't want that. You want it nice and stiff, and you want it to bust whatever you're trying to pry off. And the Stanley Wonder Bar, at least this model anyway, which I believe is a 12-inch model, is the best I've come across. I absolutely love this tool, and it doesn't weigh too much to keep in a box like this. So yeah, well worth it. I keep a Stanley Fat Max XL level. This is a torpedo level. Scaffolders use this a lot because it's got the magnets on the back. And because of those magnets, be careful when it's rattling around in the toolbox. It can sometimes pick up a little screw on the underside and then throw your levels all out. So as you're using it, just every now and again, just give it a wipe and just make sure there's nothing under there. But other than that, this one's taken quite a beating over the years, but I love this level. Little stud finder, perfect for dad jokes. Not particularly good, this one, but it works. Got a bolster chisel, or use these for breaking bricks up, but I use this as a really general purpose beater tool for demolition, and I find it as a really very heavy duty scraper. I can whack that chisel end and it strips off anything. It's a very handy tool. I've even used it as a hammer to get to places that I can't reach with a normal hammer. It's got a good weight to it. It's earned its place in this toolbox. Used it plenty of times over the years. One of the first tools I ever bought, this one actually, and I love it. Chisel. This is a really nice quality chisel from the brand. It's a German brand, but I got it really cheap, so I just tend to use it as a beater chisel. And it's just the right size for a lot of things, knocking off chunks of wood and so on. I keep a paintbrush in here. This paintbrush is just a cutting in brush, so it's got a little bit of an angle. It's a nice neat one, so I tend to keep it wrapped up in its packet just to keep the dust and everything out of it, so that I can use it for tidier work. And for more scruffy work, I've got an old paintbrush. I use this for general dusting things down, just general kind of clearing up and stuff like that. It really is just a general purpose brush to me. It's just useful to have in there. If I need to touch up a bit of paint, I can give it a quick clean and do that, but it's just useful to have that in there. Got a chalk line or a string line or whatever you want to call it. This can be used as a plumb line. You can hang it off a nail and dangle it down, and it will give you a nice plumb line. This Stanley Fat Max model, I really rate it. It's lasted me a long time. I've got a couple of them. But yeah, it lives in this box, and it lives there with a little bit of chalk that I keep it fully loaded with. I've got a nice Barco saw, really good teeth on these saws, very sharp. They're pretty disposable, but they do last a long time. The good thing is you can actually use the handles to give yourself a nice perpendicular line on there, in place of using like a roofer's square or something. They're really, really good, these saws. Got a roofing square here. This gives me like those nice right angle lines. This one's got a built-in bottle opener. I think Swanson is the main brand that you can get of these that are really popular. This Johnson brand, I found it in the hardware store that I shopped in. It seems to be pretty good. Nice quality steel, nice sharp lines on it and everything. Recommend it. Keep a set of pump pliers, just cheap Stanley ones. These ones, they for what I use them for in here, they're just demolition, maybe breaking the odd bolts and things, but it just gives me a lot of options having two of those in there, so I keep them there. Keep a set of impact bits. These are from Makita. They're on a nice little holder. It seems to have held up reasonably well. Gives me a lot of options with an impact driver, because I can connect it into my, I've only got a little impact driver, so just to stick that in the end of it and have all of these at my disposal, really useful. When it comes to bits, I keep in just a really cheap set, just laying in the bottom of the toolkit, just in case if I run out or anything. I've just got a few little options here. I've got some flathead ones, I've got some Allen keys, I've got a few Torx bits and stuff like that. Just in an emergency. That's all they're there for. Keep a little tin. I've marked it up. It's basically a little mini first aid tin. When you do any amount of work with hammers and knives, you're going to cut yourself, you're going to whack yourself. So I just keep a little selection of tough plasters and stuff in there, some alcohol wipes, and it just minimises downtime. But most importantly, it minimises you bleeding on someone's carpet when you're working around their house, which can be a little bit embarrassing. You don't want to leave that imprint on their mind. Keep a roll of duct tape, really strong stuff, so Gorilla Tape. It's the best I've come across. There are other ones available now. Keep a little sanding block. Nothing special, it's just a piece of wood with a little bit of foam on the underside. You can just cut a little bit of wood if you wanted to. And I keep a little bit of sandpaper on it. And this, I'm not doing big sanding jobs with this. I'm just literally just knocking off little edges and stuff. It's just for a quick use. Keep a nice big knife. This one I mainly keep for plasterboarding because it's nice and long. It's got a good long reach on it when I'm reaching over a plasterboard. This is Stanley Fat Max model. Check out my knife review that I've done. I'll compare a whole bunch of these and see which one fits you best, but keep this in here. Just an old wire brush. It's reasonably comfortable, doesn't take too much space, but you'll end up using that a lot. Keep some masks in here, protect your lungs. There's a whole load of rubbish floating around when you're doing jobs. And I keep a little junior hacksaw, cutting pipes and bits and pieces and small bits of metal. Nothing too heavy duty you're going to be able to do with this, but it can just get you out of trouble sometimes. And for if I have to bring out the bigger hacksaw, then I've got a couple of big blades here. And I keep these in any toolbox like this because they just slot right in the bottom. They take no space at all. They're nice and bright so you can see them. So I know they're there. Stabler 2 foot level. Really nice quality. Fits the toolbox perfectly. Good to have. I keep these from Halterfors. The green one is a heavy duty knife. The only reason I keep this is for opening like cement bags, gravel bags, plaster bags, anything like that, that if I was to use my sort of utility knives on, especially the retractables, they start getting all clogged up in them, and it starts just ruining mechanisms and things like that. So anything that's powdery or anything like that, I tend to use a nice knife like this that would just split it open easily. This is a pad saw, or a plasterboard saw, carrying out repairs, cutting round sockets and all sorts of things like that. Just useful to have in here. I've got a plastering toolbox when I'm doing a big job, but if it's just a small job, then this is ideal. Fits in this really nice plastic sheath. Can't go wrong with that. Got a whole load of drill bits in here. So this is Drill Index. This one's made by Makita and it's got a nice steel case. I've got a few of these as well. I really rate them. You can fit a lot in one toolbox. So it's got all your wood bits and your masonry bits and everything. It's just covers all the ones that you generally use, and they're good quality. I keep a nice filling knife. This one's really flexible for filling. And I keep a scraper. Always try and use the scraper for scraping, the filling for filling. That works well. And you don't put chips in it. I keep a painter's tool, or sometimes called 4-in-1s, 5-in-1s, 6-in-1s, or whatever. They've all got little cutouts and things. This one's really nice and compact from Hyde. You can clean rollers with that. You can open paint tins. You can scrape. You can pick bits out. It's just a good general purpose scraping tool. Fantastic. Coving tool. Just a cove miter, nothing special. God, there you go. Use this for old school window putty. If you ever get a call out like that, I find this quite a nice little tool to use on it. Get the angles all right and everything. This one's made by Footprint. Carpenter's pincers, great tool. where you need leverage and grip at the same time for things like nails, screws, especially staples and stuff. These are absolutely invaluable. Such an old school tool, but still so relevant to this day. Brilliant. And we've got a small stubby screwdriver. Never be without a stubby screwdriver. You're going to be working in places that are tight to get into, so you're going to need that. This one has the bits at the bottom. Sometimes these things can come undone a little bit, which I don't like. I don't like when they mess around with the cap and stuff, but it'll do for now. This little box here I just use to store smaller items. I think it's just an old tray from a tile cutter or something. I've got an old Maglite torch. These days these have been pretty much superseded by all the LEDs and stuff. I don't know why I keep this one in here still. It's pretty rubbish by today's standards, but it still lives in there. And I've got, there you go, nozzles like I was talking about earlier. I've got a little electrical tester. If I'm working anywhere near exposed wires or any wires I'm drilling, anything like that, and I've shut the power off, I want to know it's off. It just gives me a little bit of confidence to work around it. Set of tin snips. These ones are Gilbos, are really nice and heavy duty. Not something we want to use a lot of because they're not spring loaded. They're pretty stiff, but they're really tough for cutting thin sheet metal. This is only a small set just because I don't do a massive amount of that out of this box. Keep a little inspection light. Nice and powerful, really small size. And I keep Allen keys. Good selection of Allen keys just on these fold-in setups here. Going right up to big sizes for the metric. To 10mm. And I've got some smaller imperial ones. Use these for fixtures, fittings, plumbing stuff, curtain rails, you name it. Just good to have in there. Keep a little spanner. This combined with the big 8-inch Barco spanner and the pump pliers, and you can't go wrong. You can tackle pretty much every task for that. Keep a little plumb line. I just wrapped it around a screw roll plug, but yeah, it just lives in there. Use this surprisingly a lot when you're building stuff. Sharpie marker and spare blades for the junior hacksaw. Last but not least, I've got a kneeling pad. So this kneeling pad, I got fed up of when you end up just working on the floor, you're kneeling around, you've got no pads in your trousers, you haven't got any additional knee pads, but you know you're going to be stuck there for a little while. So I had just a piece of foam. Doesn't have to be anything. You can cut an old gym mat up or something like that, and you're just going to protect your knees. You're just going to be a little bit more comfortable. It takes no space at all, and I just slide it in there. And that is my toolbox, guys. Bit of an unconventional one. There's quite a few items I haven't seen in other people's toolboxes. Let me know what you think in the comments. Check out my other videos, and any suggestions that you've got, I'll happily hear them. Until next time, yeah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.